Hi friends, welcome back to another ukulele tutorial. In this lesson, we'll take a look at how to play the beautiful riffs in time after time. This video is a follow-up to my tutorial on how to play the entire song using two beautiful fingerpicking patterns. So if you haven't seen that lesson, I'll put a link above so you can learn those patterns. If you've already downloaded the song sheet from that initial video, then you'll want to download an updated PDF with the riffs included. You'll find the link to my Patreon page down below that will bring you to the song sheet. Keep in mind that I'm playing a tenor with a low G. So all of these riffs use low G tuning. This song has 3 riffs in it. So for each riff, I'll play a demo for you and then we'll walk through how to play it step by step. Now let's dive into our first riff, which is the introduction to the song. Here's a demo of the first introductory riff leading into the first line of verse 1. For this introductory riff, we're starting on our F chord. So here's what measure 1 sounds like. We're playing strings 3, 4, 3, 2, and 2 again. In measure 2, we move to a partial G chord. So I have my middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and my ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. Here we're going to play the same sequence of strings. 3, 4, 3, 2, and 2 again. In measure 3, I'm placing my index finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and my middle and ring fingers on the 4th fret of strings 3 and 4. Here we're starting on string 4, then string 3, and then the 2nd string twice. In measure 4, we're moving back to our F chord. We're playing strings 3, 4, 3, and 2. Measures 5, 6, and 7 are the same as measures 1, 2, and 3. In measure 8, we'll finish the riff, starting with all open strings. Here we're starting with the open 3rd string, the open 4th string, back to the 3rd string, and then we play the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, the open 2nd string, and then the open 3rd string. For this riff, we want to emphasize the first note in each measure. Here's the sequence of the 8 notes that start each of the 8 measures. You probably recognize this sequence as it's part of the melody. Then you say, go slow. So you want to try to emphasize the first notes in these measures and play the other notes a bit softer. For example, in measure 1, and then in measure 2. Our second riff is played after the first chorus, and it leads us into verse 3. So let's take a look at this second riff. Now I'll demonstrate the second riff, starting with the final line of the first chorus through the first line of verse 3. Time after time, the second riff from the C chord that ends the chorus. I like to play the C chord with my pinky because it puts my pinky in place for the first chord of the riff. So we're starting the riff in measure 1 on an F chord with the addition of this C note on the 3rd fret of the 1st string. Here's what measure 1 looks like. I'm starting by playing strings 4 down to 1, then I'm going back to string 3, and then I'm placing my ring finger down on the 2nd fret of the 1st string. In measure 2, we're going back to our partial G chord on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string and 3rd fret of the 2nd string. Here we're starting with strings 4 down to 1 once again, then we're going back to string 3 and then string 2. In measure 3, we're going to our partial E minor chord. I have my middle finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string and my ring finger on the 4th fret of the 3rd string. Once again, we're starting by picking strings 4 down to 1, then our next 3 notes are all on the 2nd string, starting with the 3rd fret, then the 1st fret, and then the open 2nd string. In measure 4, we're going to the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, then the open 2nd string, and then the open 3rd string. Measures 5, 6, and 7 are the same as measures 1, 2, and 3. Measure 8 starts off the same way as measure 4. And then we're going to repeat these 3 notes. The count for measure 8 is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The third and final riff is played after the second chorus and it leads us into the pre-chorus. So let's take a look at this one. Now I'll demonstrate our final riff, starting from the last line of the second chorus through the first line of the pre-chorus. Time after time, then you say, go slow, I fall behind. This final riff starts on our G chord. Here's what measure 1 looks like. We're playing strings 2, 3, 1, 2, down to string 4, back to string 1, and then finishing on string 2. The second measure starts with 2 pull-offs. We're starting on our G chord, which has carried over from the first measure. Our first pull-off is on the first string. We'll use our pinky to pull off from the 3rd fret to the 2nd fret where we have our middle finger. Then our next pull-off is on the 2nd string. Here we have our ring finger on the 3rd fret and we'll pull off to the open 2nd string. Next we play the open 4th string, open 3rd string, and open 2nd string. One thing to note on measure 2, as well as measure 6, is that if you're not yet comfortable with pull-offs, then you can pick each note. In measure 3, we're placing our index finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string and our ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. Here we're starting by playing strings 4, 2, 4, 3, 2, and then we're moving our index finger down to the 3rd string, 2nd fret, and we'll play strings 4, 3, and 2 one more time. In measure 4, we'll lift up our index finger, keeping our ring finger in place. Here we're playing strings 4, 3, and 2 twice. And then finishing with strings 4 and 3. At the end of measure 4, we have repeat bars, so we'll repeat measures 1 through 4. Measures 5, 6, and 7 are identical to measures 1, 2, and 3. So when we get to measure 8, this is where our riff ends. Here we have our ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and we'll play strings 4, 3, and 2 twice. I hope you've enjoyed learning all the beautiful riffs in Time After Time. If you'd like to download this song sheet, including the riffs, chords, lyrics, and patterns, you'll find the link down below to my Patreon page. Have fun practicing this song, and thanks for watching. Time after time.